Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I want to discuss finding a graduate job and specifically comparing the difference between a graduate program or graduate scheme and just kind of like a regular full-time job. So just for some context, I recently graduated from a business degree and now I work as an operations graduate at a company that I will not name. But yeah, anyways, so the job that I'm doing is not part of a like specific graduate program. It's more just like a full-time role, if that makes sense. But yeah, so the first off, I want to start talking about graduate programs. So these are normally kind of more established, bigger companies because obviously to create a graduate program, you need a specific like budget. So usually they're kind of well-known, bigger companies. And basically they are, like I said, programs where a company will hire a bunch of different graduates and then you'll usually work maybe anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 years in a specific role where, you know, you'll have training, you might go through different rotations and things like that. So I guess in terms of the pros, with a graduate program, there is kind of dedicated training and opportunities there. It might be more interesting. You may get work that's, you know, related to what you're studying. So for example, if you studied IT, you can be a technology graduate, or you can work in, you know, consulting or whatever. And usually you're looked after quite well. But you're not really expected to do a lot because you're a graduate. So, you know, it is just really focused on developing you, you know, and your career and yeah, making sure that, you know, you have all the skills and all the knowledge that is required to progress in that company. So yeah, these are actually quite expensive for companies to do. So they're really investing in you. And yeah, I think it's probably the best option if you are at uni or, you know, you're studying business or commerce or even like engineering or whatever and you're looking for like a full-time role after uni. So going into the cons, it is extremely competitive. Speaking from my personal experience, and also I know a lot of people that apply to these kind of roles, you know, there's a lot of people, pretty much everybody wants one and wants a job, and there are only some certain number of places available. So it is very competitive, and often companies will start these applications very early. So for example, I know now it's March and companies are already hiring for graduates for 2023. So you got to be really onto it. Normally there are also like quite high requirements. For example, there may be grade requirements, you know, you might need like a B+ or more. You might have to do a bunch of tests and just like jump through a lot of different hoops, and it's a fairly long like selection process that can take, you know, up to 6 months or even longer, depending on the company and just like how efficient their process is. Also, it is most likely going to be at least 2 to 3 years, so you will need to commit to that time if you do want to like, you know, apply to a graduate program. I mean, obviously you can quit after like 2 months, but in saying that, if you're going to apply and go through all those hoops, then you might as well commit, you know, at least like 2 or 3 years to the program. Another con could be that since you are a graduate and you're going to be going through a lot of training, you don't actually get that much responsibility, which could be seen as a pro, but also it can be a con because when you don't get responsibility, you can end up just doing a lot of like nothing, if that makes sense. So you might not progress as quickly and you might not learn as much as you want or as you would in a normal full-time role. Another con is that these graduate programs are often only located in certain big cities. So for example, if you're from a small town, then you will probably most likely have to relocate. But yeah, that's just a little bit about graduate programs. And now I'm going to talk about full-time jobs. So I think that full-time jobs kind of like don't get as much credit as they deserve because everybody is super focused on graduate programs, when getting a full-time job can be just as good, if not better. So the main pros of getting just a straight up full-time job as a graduate or just a full-time role, entry-level role, is that it is a lot easier and less competitive. Usually the interview process is a lot easier in my experience. I had only just 2 very short interviews. They were about 10 minutes long each, and it was a super quick and easy process. Normally there is no grade requirement, although I was asked to submit a transcript. Usually as long as you pass, it's fine. Like they just want to see that you have a degree and you have graduated. Also, there's no real time commitment, so you could stay for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, basically as long or as short as you would like. And you do usually tend to get more responsibility, especially if you're working in a small company. You'll work pretty much directly with the manager or, you know, the supervisor, and you do tend to have more options and opportunities to get promotions. The main cons would be that there often is not a clear path in terms of career progression. There are companies that target graduates for just full-time roles or entry-level roles that don't really require any prior knowledge. So you may be stuck doing a role that you're kind of overqualified for, or that may not directly relate to what you study. Also, you actually probably will have to do more work in the sense that if it's not an established program, you're not going to have like much dedicated training time. So if you jump into an organization that's just wanting to hire someone, you're basically just going to have to get stuck into the job. From my experience, I have enjoyed this because I like to keep busy and I like to learn, and I found that even just in the first couple weeks of my graduate job, I've learned a lot. Yeah, I feel like I've got to do a lot of stuff, and you know, I haven't just had wasted a bunch of time doing, you know, pointless training or paperwork that like doesn't really relate to what I'm going to be doing. Usually the company is smaller, so it's not going to be as well known as a potential, you know, Big Four or I don't know, FANG company. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the pros and cons. I would say all in all, no job is perfect. So if you're watching this and you're about to graduate, or even if you have already graduated, I would say just don't stress about it at all. I know that I was super stressed out about finding a job when there was really no need, because you know, everything's gonna work out and really there is no rush to find a job since you're probably gonna be working for the next 20, 30 years. So yeah, there's really no need. If you're in that process, relax, enjoy the time that you have off and make the most of it, because once you start working full time, like trust me, basically you don't have time to do anything else. It's just gonna be very hectic. So just make the most of being fun employed while you can. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Feel free to ask any questions and chuck it down in the comments and I'll try to get back to you all. And yeah, see you in my next one. Ciao.